Well, so many of you have been getting interactive through the short code as well as the page we have on Facebook, Joynews on TV. And again, over 3,000 workers who work really in the mining firms are likely to be laid off here in Ghana. And this is due to a fall in the world market price of gold and other minerals or commodities. And some of those comments have been in, and it says nothing should be done, or nothing can be done if something is done at all. Kesa Clement, your comment is a bit punctuated there. And price fluctuations are normal phenomenon in the world, and the mine managers should hold their breath because things will change. If the prices shoot up, what will the managers do? Will they call back the workers? I guess that's what happens in many other countries as well. So as and when the company can recover, then they'll have to call back their workers. Well, so we have to start the discussion. We have in the studio Fritz Bafo. Fritz Bafo, okay. Fritz Bafo is a member of parliament for Ablekuma South, but currently also in Parliament, he is a member of the Poverty Reduction Strategy Committee. He is the chairman of that committee. It's a special committee in Parliament. And you're welcome into our studio, sir.
Thank you.
Before we look at issues of poverty, etc., let's do a review of some of the papers we have in the studio. On the front page of the Daily Graphic, it says ADOMI Bridge project in danger. And I'll just read to you viewers as well what the story says, basically, and before we do in the discussion on the subject. It says two communities are engaged in a tango over the ownership of a site from where gravels are wined for roadworks in and around the Senchi Ferry landing site in the Esujaman district of the Western region, and the two communities, Old Akrade and Fojoku, are disputing the ownership of the site, and this could lead to a forestall delay in the rehabilitation of the ADOMI Bridge. And we know that is a major bridge or a link road for many transport owners as well as farming communities.
Yeah, it's the main connection between the rest of Ghana and the Volta region. I mean, if you want to go to the upper or the northern part of the Volta region, you normally use the ADOMI Bridge. So it's a very vital and strategic link between two parts of Ghana. My worries about this is, is that we tend to be parochial sometimes in our interests when it comes to development issues such as this one. And that's why I think there is a need for us to engage the National Development Planning Commission a little bit more. Because if I think due diligence had been done as to the project, these kind of things would have been sorted out way in advance, and not at the time when we really need the services of the quarry owners and all that. So basically, I think that when it comes to projects such as this one, we should use the institutions that are mandated to advise and counsel the government on this issue.
And especially for a rehabilitation of a bridge, well, has seen some minor works over the years,
yes,
but has become crucial due to its link with the two regions, the Volta and the
That's right. It's a very old bridge. The technology that was used for building that bridge is outdated. All right, it was built in 1956, and I think we've been working on it, but it's long overdue that we should have other connections between the rest of the Volta region and Ghana.
In going forward, in making sure that development comes to that part of the region as well, and especially because we know that it's close to the Akusumbo Dam and etc., how can we make sure that it becomes a rallying point for which we could have trade and commerce already, even though on a very small scale?
Well, the thing is that there are plans by government to use another route through Tong to the Volta region, which could be, because it's in the modern sense of things. It could be a larger, wider, more accessible link. But for the moment, that's what we've got. So we've got to keep on working at it. But the thing is, as I said, when you have a development and you do due diligence or you do proper monitoring and evaluation before the project is started, then you know that you can mitigate certain challenges that may come up.
Okay, now we have to move on to a next subject because on page 32 of the graphic, and I believe on the front page of some other newspapers this morning, it says ministers present 2013 performance report, and it says ministers of state have presented their performance report for 2013 to the presidency for appraisal, and the Deputy Minister for Information and Media Relation, Ibrahim Mutala Mohammed, told journalists at the Flagstaff House on Monday that the appraisal from the presidency will indicate whether the ministers had met their performance targets or not, and the report would also form the basis for corrective measures that will be introduced in areas where some of the ministers might be found wanting. What was the rationale in instituting this? I mean,
Look, in management, any management student will tell you that monitoring, evaluation, appraisals, all these things are very much part and parcel of the human resource management aspect of any institution. And government is an institution. It's a vital institution for the people of Ghana. And I think that all ministers or all public servants, whether they are political appointees or not, should be subject to some form of appraisal to assess their impact on government programs. Ministers are very important to government programs because they oversee government programs. They ensure that those programs are implemented, that they are the vital cog in the wheel. And if they are found wanting, then we can actually then plan as to how to change things or improve things. So it's very, very vital.
But to give all these benchmarks to ministers, there's a party manifesto, and there's also a budget for the year. So
yes, I mean, that's the criteria maybe for measuring them. If you have a party manifesto and you say that, look, we want you to fulfill this aspect of the party manifesto, and you don't do it, then you failed. You understand? So it's a benchmark. I mean, you're right in saying that there should be benchmarks. Ministers are employees. They're employees of the executive. All right, and therefore they have to be assessed as such, just as the President of the Republic of Ghana is assessed at the end of his tenure by the people of Ghana. They look at certain benchmarks
based on what he's been able to do with the help of those very ministers.
Yes, and if he comes up with a manifesto, and he doesn't fulfill the manifesto, the people of Ghana have got every right to say, you came out with this manifesto, you said you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this, and you haven't been able to do it. You understand? And therefore, then the questions will be asked.
Then the question again is, will the president have the guts to say, or come up publicly, just like they're doing with all these, that I feel this minister of mine did not perform, and as a result of that, I feel this minister of mine needs to be taken off from office?
No, I don't think it would be fair to the person who's failed. I mean, the thing is that the fact is that
there was a point.
No, there's a point, because the thing is that it satisfies the institutional operation. The operation of the institution. The thing is that why does everything have to be public?
To what end and purpose?
No, the thing is that if you're a minister and you haven't done well, all right, and you're removed, I mean, why should the president go out and say, I removed him because he was no good? I mean, I don't think it's fair in terms of...
if the president is by any means coming publicly with this very thing, if not for political expediency...
No, it's not for political expediency. He's saying that...
Then he should come public and
he's telling Ghanaians that ministers will be appraised, all right? For example, when there is a reshuffle, people think that if you're reshuffled out of government, that maybe you're not capable. But maybe you fulfilled a certain part of the mandate, or maybe you could have been found wanting in certain in certain areas of your expertise. You understand? So what I'm saying is that in Ghana, when we appraise in an institution, a private institution, we don't tell people that, tell the rest of the staff that this guy was found wanting. Because you'll have to give the person a chance to redeem himself one way or the other. You understand? Once you do that, you're affecting the person's self-confidence and the confidence of the institution itself. So there is a certain element of confidentiality in it. But what the president is saying is that my ministers are not just there and are not there just running a mandate unmonitored, unevaluated evaluated. That's the thing. You know? So
but using the company, for example, if you are praised and you don't do well, for example, you're chief executive or whatever mid-level manager you are, if your appointment is terminated, it's put on the public notice.
Yes,
I don't know whether you can equate a country to...
No, that is the final thing. And we're dealing with two different issues here. We're dealing with a political issue. All right, and a political issue has got to have a certain level of spin, has to have a certain level of confidentiality, because you don't know when you'll need that person again. In the context of, let's say,
if the person has been competent, why do you invite the person again?
Yeah, but if the person has been competent, fine. If he's incompetent, then you don't use him. Or you find out maybe he's incompetent because he was a square peg in a round hole. You look for the square peg that you can put him in. That is it. Because look, we're talking about 275 members of parliament. All right, let's say 150 belong to the present government. All right, you don't really have much of a variety to choose from. So you have to make sure.
You're saying the members of parliament are not good then?
No, I'm not saying that. I never said that, and I would never impute that.
Okay.
But I'm saying that the pool is a very small pool.
Okay.
You understand? And
not enough to choose from.
No, not really enough to choose from. But the thing it's a very tight pool. You want the majority of ministers from Parliament, all right? And then you select from outside. You have technocrats. You have people who are party followers who have not been elected and all that. But the thing is that when you're doing that, it's also a process of change. When I went into Parliament in 2008, I was green. I'd been working for almost 40 years. I'd worked in management almost all my life. But I went into a very, very new sort of area of expertise. And over the 4 years, I've learned a great deal, you understand? So maybe in the early days, if anything had happened like that, and I'd fallen short, and I'd been thrown away into the dustbin, and then I'll be no use to anybody. But maybe I have the capacity to learn. You see, so that is it in reality. So
your tenure was renewed not only by your own party but also by your constituents as well. Based on your performance, is that what you're saying?
Basically, okay, I'm not talking about that aspect of it. Okay. I'm just saying that there is a learning curve when you enter into an organization. Okay. In football, a young guy is brought in. He's a novice. He's not too good. But then, in 4 or 5 years, he's become a great star. And you say, we didn't think that this guy would be good. If you've thrown him away. Therefore, and the human resource aspect of our governance is very vital because it's the most important aspect. And the human resource aspect is vital to any country. And if you value your human resources, then you are on your way to having a very well developed country because you ensure their health, you ensure their training, you ensure the information goes to them. All these are the things that we're working for.
While all that you're saying is not truism, is logical, do you think that perhaps we need to be experimenting then if in the appointment of ministers? We need more experienced people, for example. Perhaps we need to have the training ground before they move to
the... well, the thing is that our system doesn't really allow for it. In Britain, for example...
Perhaps we should allow for it.
We over the years, the thing is that in Britain you have the parliamentary system which is you have the Prime Minister who's a member of Parliament, and they have every minister has a parliamentary private secretary who later on may become a deputy minister. You go through a certain process. In Ghana we don't have the time for it because we have a hybrid. You understand? So and for example, my government has said we're not going to have special assistants because it's expensive. I disagree with it. I believe that.
So when you were a minister, you didn't have a special assistant?
I didn't have a special assistant.
You were working all alone?
Yeah, you work all alone, or you use your own resources. You use your own resources to get people to help you.
By you.
Yeah, basically, you've got to find a way of doing that. But what I'm saying is special assistants are needed because you don't really have the time to do the research on certain issues, and you need that. And
because you're always occupied.
You're always occupied, and you're also always on the run. So we've got a lot to learn and a lot to do in order to ensure that our governance system works far more efficiently. And this aspect of the monetary evaluation and appraisal is a very, very important factor in what we want to do.
Well, be it as it may, and with all benefit of doubt to the President, that these appointments have been made, sometimes we hear across the media space, in the rumor mill, that the appointments usually are influenced by a number of factors and forces. So how then does the president come back to the public and say these are the benchmarks I gave them, and by this very time I'm assessing them? Does it make logical?
That is the fob against the influences. All right. If you have influences of regional balance, if you have influences of gender balance, you have influences of parochial balance and all that kind of thing, you've got to be able to defend yourself by saying, I did not take this person on because he had to fulfill, or he or she had to fulfill this, that. So you put your own benchmarks in, and you put in there, because you must have a vision. And if you have a vision, the people who are going to work with you have got to tie into that vision. You understand?
Whether they are basically appointed by your own mainstream
Look,
mechanism or not.
If the influences come, if you say that you want people from Wa in your government, you want people from Bono in your government.
Not because you like it, but because of the setup.
But you've got to say that,
the demographics
if you
of
want
the
to bring
country,
people from these particular areas, or even from Choko, they've got to be able to have this and that and that and that, because this is my vision, and that is how they'll fulfill it. So go and find people like that to come and help me in my governance. And then you say that I will also try and ensure that whatever work they do, all right, will be monitored, evaluated, and if it doesn't, and I tell you that, hey, this guy didn't do well, I mean, and you are then you understand why. But that's it.
You're a very experienced person, having been in management for over 4 decades, and now having been a member of parliament for a second term. Would you say, by your own objective analysis, that perhaps governments in power, whether they're headed by the president, the vice president, or whatever, are able to pinpoint to their own appointees and say that I feel that you didn't do a good job and so I'm taking you off? Have they been able to do that?
Yeah, I think it's happened. The rumor mill I've heard, but not from
again,
experience.
The rumor mill.
The rumor mill
so
is
it's
very,
always
very
something
important.
we can measure.
We can measure, yes. I mean, the rumor mill is very, very important. I mean, the thing is that it's not as reliable as people think it is. But the thing is that you hear, I mean, from interaction with your colleagues and everything, that, oh, well, I was reamed yesterday by the president, or I was reamed by my boss, or something like that. And so I'm either going to adjust to fit in with the purpose or the vision, or I might as well withdraw, because I do not agree with it. It happens in all aspects of governance throughout the world.
And it's not going to be new to Ghana.
No, it's not new to
Ghana, have you encountered that? You were a minister before, so you should give us your own experience.
Well, the thing is that, yes, I mean, you have the parameters in which you can ream somebody off. Naturally, if you are a good manager, if you'd rather advise, and you have to sit down and consult, and then you have to compromise on certain issues, and you've got to be someone who can spur people on rather than destroy their confidence, because human beings can be good and they can be bad.
Do you think what the president is doing now is the right way to go?
Yes, I mean, it's very much part and parcel of correct management practice.
And what will be the end result?
I would know. I mean, he's the president.
No, it's not political as usual.
Well, politics always comes in. Why do we want to take politics out of the scheme of things? It's very, very much part and parcel of our being. You know, society has taken in politics as part and parcel of its essence. So really, you know, I mean, when you talk about politics, it's very much part and parcel of us.
Okay. In all this very communication that the government people have been given to the public and the media, never heard anything about deputy ministers, or is that by inference? The ministers are deputy ministers?
All ministers, yes.
Did you present a report when you were a minister?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so it makes you fall short of not being good when you were in office?
My time was the annus horribilis for Ghana. I mean, the thing is that we...
You mean experimental?
No, it was 1 year. The president died. It was an election year. I mean, everything was up in the air. And I think that we focused on other things, okay, in the year that I was the minister. So certain things were not put into place at the time. This is a new government. It's a new mandate, and he's put together his vision and the style of management and governance that he wants to put on.
Okay, so now they are going to present their report to the president, and then the president will do what? You're a member of the party, so you should
Well,
know.
I don't know. I mean, I'm a member of the party, but I'm not a member of the executive. So at this moment in time.
Okay, in Parliament, how does that sound to you? Having the President order his ministers to present a report on how well they have performed in a particular.
Well, I've got nothing. I've got nothing against.
Not necessarily you. I mean,
but
members of Parliament.
Mama, we're in support of. We're in support of it. As I said, I'm the chairman of the Poverty Reduction Strategy Committee, and one of the jobs that we have is to monitor and evaluate performances of government programs, especially government poverty programs. So, it fits into to what we're doing and what we expect government to do.
Okay. On page 4 of the paper, The Ghanaian Times, the Parliament wants school heads punished. And we'll tell you why. Parliament has directed the Minister of Health, Hani Shariaite, to investigate and sanction heads of nursing training institutions who charge unapproved fees. The House issued this directive on Monday during the consideration and approval of the annual budget for the ministry. That's in the sum of 3.3 billion Ghana cedis. And the issue was raised by the chairman of the Parliamentary Select Committee on Health, Joseph Yelichiri, when he presented the committee's report on the estimate for the ministry to the House for consideration, etc. Do you think that's the right way to go? Going hard on heads of nursing training institutions. We need a lot more nurses in Ghana.
There was a key word there,
which is?
Unapproved.
Unapproved?
Key word. If it's not approved, then there is an anomaly there. And that anomaly has got to be sanctioned one way or the other. That's it, period.
So it would mean that what? The ministry would now be going to the training institutions and asking them not to train more people?
No. The thing is that you have institutions, and there are certain fees that are charged to the students. If they are unapproved, then that means that it wasn't mandated by government or by the supervisory institution. And so therefore you've broken rules. And when you break rules and regulations, you are expected to be sanctioned. And that's all we're saying, that sanction them if they've broken the rules. And that's all.
And do you think that by so doing, you encourage the heads of those institutions to perform adequately, whether because you feel that they are charging unapproved fees or not?
If they charge unapproved fees, you find out why they're charging unapproved fees. You investigate. And I think that the sanctions will be commensurate with what the anomaly is, or the wrongdoing that has occurred. It has to be. You have to make sure that when you say sanction, it's not necessarily being sacked or whatever it is. Either you seek refunds or whatever. You understand? So the degree of sanctions I cannot comment on.
Okay. So the head of the committee, that's the chairman, Yelichiri, gave the assurance that the committee will follow up on the directive and ensure that the heads of those nursing institutions found liable were sanctioned accordingly. Doesn't that also show that the Ministry of Health has just not been working adequately in monitoring
the thing is that
such activities?
You cannot leave any institution of government alone. There has to be some oversight. And Parliament has oversight over government programs and government ministries. You understand? That's why when you come up with your budget, we have to look at it and approve your budget. And we approve your budget based on your performance and on your needs, what we've assessed as your correct needs, and the way you handle the government's funds. That's it, basically. Okay.
We'll be talking human development very soon, because the South Korean government has just given Ghana $4.5 million for implementation of some human development projects in the northern part of Ghana. But let's talk a bit more issues on politics before we come to the issues of development, because we have in the studio somebody who is the chairman of the Poverty Reduction Strategic Committee of Parliament, Fritz Bafu, Member of Parliament for Ablekuma South. On the front page of the Chronicle, we have the story, contest in MPP is not life and death, and just talking about how political parties are gearing up for the election 2016, But before they do that, they would need to elect their various executives. And the MPP has been very instrumental in doing that. Well, he's a member of the NDC, though, but I need to ask them, what do you think about the way political parties tend to undertake their campaigns, especially at the grassroots level, before it goes national, and the various upheavals that goes along with it?
The very foundation of any political party is its grassroots. We have a situation where in the NDC, every member of the NDC belongs to a branch, or with the MPP they say polling station group or whatever. Every NDC member belongs to a branch. If you do not belong to a branch, you're not a member of the NDC. You find people saying, "Oh, I'm a card-bearing member of the NDC," or then we ask him, "What branch do you belong to?" And that branch should be within a ward, and that ward should be within a constituency, and that constituency is within a region. You understand? So the grassroots aspect of political parties is very, very, very important.
So far, do you think that you're satisfied, having been an instrumental player yourself and participated adequately in the grassroots process, that in mobilizing resources, in mobilizing people, etc., your supporter base at the grassroots level, the political parties have been doing that well?
Well, the thing is that, again, it's got to do with resources. Most political parties are not that well resourced. So it's very, very difficult to bring in the whole mass of supporters. And we're gradually getting there when we realize how best to resource our political parties, how best to fund our political parties. All right. Right now, we use the electoral college system to elect various executives right up to the presidency, to presidential candidates. So gradually we're widening the net for more people to participate in that process. But at the moment, we're using the electoral college system, where a certain group of people who have been elected by the grassroots will represent them in electing members of the executive or key party figures. But I think that we really need to widen it. And, soon there'll be open primaries. Anybody who's a member of the party, who's a bona fide member of the party, has the right to be able to vote for executives within their branches, wards, regions, whatever. I think that we're getting there. I mean, our democracy is relatively young. It is very young, actually. Just barely over 20 years. So we really have to do something.
Because, for example, the MPP have polling stations in 26,000.
Yeah, okay. I mean,
26,000 polling stations.
I laud them for it.
And they have over 100,000 population for voters, so to speak.
Yeah, we naturally, every political party monitors the operations of other political parties, and when we see something that is good, we may...
And so your party wants to innovate?
Yeah, yes, because naturally, I mean, we'll look and say, look, these people have done it, and they've done it well, and so therefore it is possible. You understand? That's part and parcel of the political process.
How does that help in that phrase we've been using, always participatory democracy?
That is it, what it is. I mean, the word is participatory democracy. If you want to have participatory democracy, then everybody who claims to be or who is a bona fide member of a political party should have certain rights and should have certain powers to ensure that the right kind of people represent them.
And so far, you are satisfied with the steps that have been taken by all the parties?
Yeah, I'm satisfied with the steps, yeah.
Okay, well, what do you make of the internal wranglings that the MPP seem to be experiencing? And sometimes, once in a while, we'll hear in the media also, coming from your side of party as well.
I refuse to comment on something like that because I'm not that in the know. Anything I talk will be from afar, and I don't think that it's fair on the MPP, and it's not fair on us too. People who dare to venture on those kind of issues are very daring, I think. I don't think that I want to do something like that at all. I like it to be based on something solid and credible.
Okay. We would have to move to the issue of development, especially because Honorable Fitz Bafo Bafo, right?
Bafo.
He's the chairman of the Poverty Reduction Strategic Committee of Parliament. It's a special committee in Parliament, and they look at issues of poverty, etc. First, before I look onto whatever I have at the back page of the Ghanaian Times, as far as the MDGs are concerned, we're not doing too well.
No, we're not doing too well.
Why?
Basically, because I think that we're weak in terms of monitoring and evaluation. We're trying to raise the ante in terms of training, in terms of capacity building, to be able to monitor and evaluate, in order to be able to give the kind of processes that will help in managing our programs. And it's a matter of human capacity. And I think that we're working very, very hard on it. I mean, both sides of the political divide are working very hard on it, because we realize that it is important if we want to deliver. Because government, it's about delivery. It's about delivery of programs and projects to the people of Ghana.
Is there... you've talked about the commitment from both sides, but would you say that perhaps, despite all the things that we say, we're not committed as we should?
It's not a question of
in terms of how we allocate resources.
It's not a question of commitment. It's a question of the right kind of modus operandi to be able to sort that kind of thing out, or to monitor, to evaluate, to ensure that programs are come to a positive end, or for services to be delivered to the people. And I think that we're learning. It's, again, as I said, capacity building in a way. And I think there's a commitment for us to do so, and want to do it the right way. We are accelerating the way we do things to ensure that a lot of the MDGs are met.
Well, on the back page of the Ghanaian Times, we have the story: South Korea earmarks $4.5 million for human development projects in the Busan North and South districts. We have KOICA, which is the International Cooperation Agency for South Korea, giving Ghana that money. And the project is dubbed Project for Human Development Through Life Cycle Approaches. Do you think that getting these piecemeal supports, or extra budgetary support out of the budget support, so to speak, will help us?
I don't think $4.5 million is piecemeal. I think it can do a lot of work. The thing is that if you look at Korea and you look at Japan, these countries have very little natural resources. But what they've done is that they've looked after their human resource base so well, and they've valued it so well, and that's why they are what they are. When you talk about life cycle, you're talking about maternal health, you're talking about health of workers, you're talking about prevention of diseases, you're talking about access to certain things like water, all right, more so water, access to good health, access to mobility, all these things are part and parcel of development. If you're not mobile, you don't develop. If you don't have good health, you don't develop. If your mothers are dying and the children are dying, you're not going to get the right kind of population that you want. All those things come into the play when we're doing these things.
For the health sector, always we know there's always a strategic document in which they follow. There's always a plan for within a period.
Yes.
And we know the current one has been renewed, so to speak, and that has been looked at. Which, for you, members of Parliament, is the most crucial that needs to be achieved?
I think primary health care is the most important thing. When we talk about health, primary health care and sanitation and hygiene, very, very, very important. Because without that, you can't move ahead. You're always going to have problems. You always have to return. And I think that's what we've got to work on. Yeah.
And do you think we're making the strides, we're taking the steps that would...
Yeah, because everybody's... it's a matter of public awareness, raising the awareness of everybody, the stakeholders. And I think stakeholders' awareness has increased. And I think that with that kind of awareness, we should be able to triumph.
Linked to increased primary health care is access to the facilities that will
that's it. All these things are embodied in what I'm talking about. If you have enhanced primary health care, then people at that level will have access to health delivery programs, and that's very, very important. That's why we started with the CHIP compound, and we're doing all that, and then gradually you go on to the secondary, and then you go on to the tertiary institutions. So that's how you start. You have to lay the foundation, and we always say prevention is better than cure. When you have good primary health care, then the prevention aspect is well looked after.
And as a country currently, what we're facing now is not having the needed resources for that. Because already, as far as our budget is concerned, we spent a chunk.
Yeah.
We all know why, on the wages, etc.
Yes.
And the other areas of subsidies and all that we talk about. That constrains what needs to be.
There are immense constraints, But the thing is that you've got to know where you're going. And I think that right now, most Ghanaians are aware that we can't
Well,
spend...
we're aware. Are we doing that? Led by the executive?
Awareness is the first step. Once you're aware that the problems that you have, you start working hard to resolve those problems and mitigate those challenges. Right now, we know that we spend too much money on wages and compensation, and that we have to look at assets and goods and services. So it's very, very important that we realize that we have to raise the ante in terms of resource generation and all that. Some people will say it's from increased exports, some will say industrialization, some will say this and that, but those are the things that we've got to really look at, that we cannot rely on, or we cannot have a situation where wages and compensation is far, far more than the operational aspects of it, services and goods and assets and the operational aspect of government, where we have to have projects, roads, hospitals, schools, all those things. We have to spend more on that than our wages, and it means that we have to have increase the efficiency of our human resource base in order to be able to get more out of them than we're getting at the moment.
Looking at the steps we're making, could we have done better?
Naturally. I mean, the thing is that in hindsight, you can say that we should have done better. I mean, it's a fact. All of us, I mean, from both parts of the political divide, we should have done considerably better, having the quality of the human resource base that we've had over the years. But we've had problems in the history of this country in terms of governance, and I think that right now we've come to a period where I think that we can actually sit back and plan properly.
And for example, even in Accra, even in your constituency, there are communities who don't have access to a lot of the basic health care needs.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very, very true. So we work at it, and the thing is that I know that
we've been working for decades now.
I know, but I mean, I've come in and I know I've got my work cut out.
We're never getting there, are we?
We will get there, because the thing is that previously we weren't aware that primary health care prevention, we're now getting, we have a far more knowledgeable society. And even in Choko and at the other places that are deprived in my community, you have a lot of people coming on who are aware of the need to improve on the service delivery to their communities, and for the communities to be participatory in any project that will enhance their development and the quality of their lives. So it's very, very important. And I am working towards that, and I know that a lot of our MPs are working towards that. On Fridays, when you see MPs going back to the village, they're only going back for funerals and to show off. Most of them are going to take part in community processes to make their communities a better.
You're talking about village. You don't have a village in your constituency.
I do. I mean, the thing is, mine is a peri-urban community, and so therefore you have very little. You have communities that are just as rural as some in the hinterland.
Do you think that as members of parliament, perhaps, or as lawmakers or legislators, the honors of development in the constituency, sometimes those access also tend to fall on you, while there should rather be accountability issues for whatever?
Basically, the thing is
the executive or the district assemblies of the metropolitan.
It's institutional renewal. I mean, in the last 20 years, we've been renewing our institutions. We've been upgrading our institutions. We've been raising our awareness and things like that. And we're stakeholders in the development of our various communities and the nation. And people will see us that. And we are the ones in the forefront. We're the ones who are seen. It's Fritz Bafo who's the Member of Parliament for Ablekuma South. If I'm passing, they know that that's a Member of Parliament. He represents our views. And so, therefore, they have no qualms problems in coming to me to say, hey, what are you doing for us? Maybe they may be wrong in the way they'll go about it, but the thing is that, hey, there's nothing wrong with them doing that.
Talking about primary health care, how critical is the National Health Insurance Scheme?
It is. I mean, if it is very vital, because basically it is a funding mechanism for our health delivery programs and projects. And the thing is, the more efficient we make it, the better it will be for our people. And I think that we're working very hard to turn that institution into a very efficient and effective one.
As members of parliament, when you undertake your analysis or the assessment of how perhaps people are getting access in communities, etc., all those in peri-urban or urban communities, are you satisfied?
No, I'm not satisfied. I mean, I think we've got a lot of work to be done. I mean, as I sit down here, I mean, we're not in a perfect situation. One of the reasons why I enjoy being a Ghanaian is that we're climbing a mountain. Other people have climbed the mountain and they're treading soil at the top. And the climb is also exhilarating, and then that's the opportunity for you to learn and to contribute a little bit more to your community. So I have no problems about it. We've got a lot of work to be done. Our work is not done. It's not done at all. I mean, we've got a lot of work to do.
How do we put things into sharp focus? For example, the National Health Insurance Scheme, or the authority says they'll need a lot more funding to ensure that they can have wider access. And then there's also the issue of sustainability of a scheme that is helping improve the current health of those who can access, so to speak,
the thing is that
the better facilities in our society.
One of the good things about the kind of democracy that we have, a good democracy, is that you build up your institutions. And it's the sustainability comes from building up your institutions, from resourcing your institutions. We have a lot of institutions that are democratic institutions. They're the underpinning of our democracy. The National Media Commission, for example, the Electoral Commission, the SRAJ, the NHIS, all those institutions have got to be built up because they are the underpinnings of our democracy. And we have to resource them well. And we're in the process of accepting that if we don't resource them, they'll fail, and then we won't have the sustainability. And if we don't have the sustainability, then it falls on individuals, which is then a big mistake. When President Obama came to Ghana, he talked about the fact that it's institutions, good institutions, that make a democracy, and not individuals. Individuals will belong to an institution. If they have the capacity, they will understand that the institution is very, very important to good governance. So basically, that's what we're working at.
If we need to look at issue of sustainability and funding, and you are members of parliament and you discuss that, and there's always the other things that are said on radio and TV, etc., and also in the public domain, how do you tend to synchronize or breach that, or try to perhaps ameliorate the type of perceptions that are created out there? Again, because these are crucial matters.
Yeah, the very good thing about the democratic process and the fact that we have a working parliament is that we engage each other, whether we're on the both sides of the divide. We don't do that as much in the public eye when we're in the plenary, which is in the chamber where we argue and all that. But when we come to the committee stage, which is a very, very important part of of governance in Parliament, we actually engage each other and we discuss things from various points of view in order to come up with solutions to whatever challenges we face. So it's a process. It's a continuous process. We're not at each other's throats most of the time. We're working together, and it's very, very important.
At your committee, the poverty reduction
strategy.
Okay, poverty reduction strategy. It always reminds me of the GPRS, so that's why I keep okay. And what's the current issue you're handling now? All the issues you're handling?
Definitely what we're looking at.
You're looking at a plethora of issues.
Yeah, a lot of issues. The thing is, every ministry has an element which fits into our scheme of things of poverty reduction. Ministry of Finance may be monitoring and evaluating employment. You have LEAP, and you have all the various programs and projects that we're working on, and so therefore we monitor and evaluate, and even with the NGOs that are in the country working on poverty reduction, we need to monitor their operations and see whether there are any successes there. If there are failures, we ask why, and we investigate those failures. So it's a question of looking and ensuring that the poverty reduction aspect of all the ministries or governed are working. And those that are non-governmental, we also have some oversight.
And do you think that the issue of evaluation and monitoring and evaluation is adequately done to the point where you would say there's end satisfaction?
No, not at all. As I've been sitting here saying that we've not fulfilled our mandate totally. We're working towards fulfilling our mandate. We're looking at the correct modus operandi. We're building our human capacity. We're raising public awareness on issues. All right, there's a lot of work to be done. So in reality, it is an exciting prospect because we've got work ahead of us.
Okay, talking about poverty and all that we've been talking about, on the front page of today's newspaper, there's a story there that says the 2012 flag bearer of the Progressive People's Party, Dr. Papa Kwesi Yindum, has attributed causes for the nation's poverty to mismanagement, corruption, laziness, envy, well-meaning but poor leaders, and an attitude that says we should look for the best people and tear them apart, pull them down syndrome. They usually call them PhDs. And is it true? You're a member of parliament. You're part of the political elite of the Republic of Ghana.
Well, the thing is that Ghana has its pluses and has its negatives. All right, if you want to focus on the negatives, you can do so. I would rather focus on the pluses. All right, pull him down. All these things happen everywhere in the world, maybe to different degrees. The impact on Ghana of our negativity may be the fact that we actually need less negativity and more positivity. All right, and so therefore, yes, if he's making a play about it, fine. But I believe that Ghana's got far better things to do. We've got to think of the pluses, and in working hard to make Ghana a better place, we'll be able to limit the negative aspects that he's pointing. But he's at liberty to say whatever he feels.
That's safe political talk from you. That's very diplomatic.
That is not safe
Honorable
political. No, by nature, I believe in Ghana. And I believe it's a very great country. You understand? And I believe that sometimes we waste too much time arguing and talking about the negatives. We've got to get on with the pluses. All right? I will not go out on platforms and insult people because I feel it's negative. All right? I may have reasons to insult people or to think that certain people are not good. But that is not the right thing. I don't believe that's the right thing. I believe that Ghana deserves better. And if Ghana deserves better, then we've got to work to make sure that those who are deserving of praise, of encouragement, should be given that opportunity. There's
a current perception that there's perceived corruption in Ghana. Actually, has always been for decades.
There is corruption in Ghana. It is unacceptable. There are unacceptable levels of corruption everywhere, and we have got to work to reduce that. You understand? And we cannot reduce that by talking negatively, but by handling the situation. Let me give you an example of something that used to happen around this time some years ago. People were lynched for touching. Well, there was a claim that people had the ability to make your genitals disappear. So people were walking around.
Some few years ago,
it
wasn't anything.
Women were walking around because, as they said, if you held your mammaries, if you held your mammaries, you wouldn't lose it. And so people walked around holding their genitals. Then the government said, the very very clever IGP said, people are dying for something that is a negativity. So what I'll do is that if you claim that you've lost your genitals because somebody has touched you, the person who touches you and you will be arrested. It stopped. So they used the psychology of the human being to stop something that wasn't right. And I think that sometimes we have to look at that aspect of things. We have to encourage people. We have to make people more knowledgeable. We have to raise public awareness on issues. We have to inform the public. The public itself, we have to engage them before we embark on any project. All right. There are so many anecdotes that I've come across in my work, which are very, very positive, because you can't say that you're thinking for the people. You've got to find out what they're thinking first, in order then to sit down and engage them to find out solutions to their problems. And that is what I believe in.
Well, nice speaking to you this morning. Honorable Fritz Bafo is a Member of Parliament for Ablekuma South here in Accra. And he's also the chairman for Ghana's Parliament Committee on Poverty Reduction Strategy. I got that one right.
Very well.
And thanks very much for speaking to us. And it's been AM Talk on the AM Show, which is live on the Joy News channel of Multi TV. Many of you have been giving us your interactive messages. I would want to read some of them. This one from Osei Boating Chirikwi, who says, I believe that Ghana can only make it if our leaders are less corrupt. Again, the issue of corruption comes up. This one from George Kunsu, you are saying from the Bulsa district. You says, many communities in my area don't have public toilets. Farmers can't go to farms because they don't have enough money to invest in their farms. Government needs to do something about it. Well, every time government has to do everything about anything, does it? And then I'll read the last one. This one from AJ Boating. Government needs to be on its toes. Government is not working as it should. 2016 is around the corner. Your vote is your power. So that's it we have for the AM Talk. Thanks for joining me. Next, we bring to you a lot more on the AM show. And we'll look at AM Base as well as my banner. Do stay on.